All right, what's going on, guys? You know what it is. 46 show back at it. I got a guest picker today. The man, the myth, the legend, Matt Jeff Spioli Franz. Spioli, how you feeling today, man? How you feeling?
I feel good, man. I mean, it's Halloween. It's a Thursday before a great college football slate. I was just going through, obviously, I had the A&M gear on, had to for this week, and I'm stoked for that game. But we got a lot of good games this week, man. So, um, couldn't be more excited for the weekend.
Yeah, exactly, man. I am going to one of the big games here. I'll talk about that game for sure. We do have, like you said, a ton of big games to go over. Some of the games we're going to go over today: Clemson, Louisville, Duke at Miami. That's a big game, a sneaky big game there. Ole Miss versus
Yep.
Arkansas. Once again, Arkansas, you never know with that team. Is Ole Miss on upset alert? I mean, we're gonna see. Florida versus Georgia, Penn State versus Ohio State. That could be, technically the game of the year. We've already had apparently two games of the years with Georgia, Alabama, and then Texas and Georgia. The
Yeah.
Alabama Georgia game definitely lived up to the hype. I feel like Texas was not ready for Georgia, which was insane because they were at home and everyone was hyping them up. And then obviously we're going to cover the game everyone wants to talk about, Texas A&M at South Carolina. So we do have a
That's the
lot.
game of the year, man.
Oh, that could be a game of the year right there too, man. But anyways, let's cover the first game today. All right, we have Clemson at home versus Louisville. Now, obviously, I have a strong disdain for Clemson. As you understand, big Gamecock guy, obviously not a Tiger guy at all. Um, I feel like in this game, it's a mix of a lot of things here, right? Is Clemson that good? I mean, what do you think, Speed? Do you think they're that good, or do you think maybe the teams they're playing are that bad? I feel like it's a lot of things, right? Like it could be like a
Oh
mix of.
yeah. I mean, I'm on the fence about this Clemson team. Like you said, I feel like they really haven't played anyone that good.
Yeah.
But if you watch the games, it feels like they're getting better.
Mhm.
So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is a game Clemson has to win. They have to beat Louisville. Like,
Yeah.
there's no like, there's no room for error for this Clemson team.
Yeah.
Um, I wrote down, I think it's going to be close. I think Louisville's sneaky. I think they can give them a hard time, but I have Clemson winning this game. Um, I don't know if I really don't know if Clemson's gonna have enough tough games on their schedule and tough wins to
Yeah.
push them into like a playoff spot. Because I mean, look at all these teams this year. I mean, you have a bunch of one loss teams. I think you're gonna have a lot of SEC teams with two losses that are hovering around that top 12.
Yeah.
So I think Clemson needs to win out. I
Mhm.
think they're gonna come out with some fire. I think they beat Louisville, but I think it's close because I don't trust this Clemson team, man.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't trust their offense all that much. But yeah, I mean, I think they squeak it out. I don't think Louisville's great, but I think they give them a run for their money.
Yeah. And Louisville can put up points, and that's kind of one of the
Yep.
things I put down here was Louisville can score. They scored with Miami. That was a kind of a crazy game they had with Miami. I think it was like 2 weeks ago because when I was watching the South Carolina Oklahoma game, that game was on, and my dad was flipping back and forth. He had some money on that game.
And I
But
think that's gonna be the issue, by the way. If Louisville scores, it's gonna be an issue because like, is Clemson gonna stay up with them? To be honest with you, I don't watch much Louisville football, so I don't know how like good their defense is. But like I said before, I don't put a ton of trust into this Clemson offense right now.
yeah, I mean, with Cade Klubnik, I mean, he is playing better. He's actually a Heisman candidate somehow. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, he is. He is.
he is a Heisman candidate. I know Clemson's got a good defense. A lot of Clemson fans always commented about how South Carolina's defense is overrated. We're the best defense in South Carolina, which I guess we're gonna have to find out one day. But
Well, we'll
Clemson,
get to that game later, but I have some
yeah,
notes on the South Carolina defense.
yeah. So definitely gonna talk about South Carolina Clemson eventually. But in this game here, I'm just gonna go with my prediction. I have Clemson. I say Clemson's going to win 31-24. I think Louisville is able to keep it somewhat close in Death Valley Junior. For those who don't know, Clemson thinks they're Death Valley for some reason. I don't know why. But in Death Valley Junior, Clemson wins 31-24. Speed, what's your prediction?
I mean, I'm kind of in the ballpark with that. I like that 31-24. I think Clemson kind of runs away with it a little bit more at the end. I'm gonna say I'll say 35-23. How about that?
Okay, that's about accurate right there. They are a 10.5-point favorite.
Yep.
So I mean, they in your mind they're gonna cover. So I guess
I think they do. Yeah.
hammer Clemson for if you're
Oh,
watching.
whoa. Don't put that on me. I'm not hammering Clemson here. I do
Yeah.
think they cover though. I think it's gonna be a sweat. If we have some gambling fans out there, I would lean Clemson minus 10.5, but I think it's gonna be a sweaty one, and they end up covering in the end.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, moving on. So this game has a lot of revenge in it, you could say. So Duke travels to the U, where they are a 20-point dog. Okay, which
Yep.
I know not many people are watching Duke football, but they're pretty solid, man. Manny Diaz has them, playing well. A
Yep.
20-point dog going to the U. I think that's a lot of points right there. And I think Manny Diaz, who coached at the U prior to them hiring Cristobal, is going to have them kind of ready to play, right? I mean, this is a revenge game for him. So I really haven't tuned into much Duke football. I have notes about, Diaz, his time at Penn State as the coordinator last year. He's very defensively sound. Miami kind of has been sleepwalking through teams, honestly. Like, It seems like they really haven't been tested. I mean, the Virginia Tech game, they were supposed to beat the brakes off Virginia Tech. They won on a Hail Mary, they won. Virginia Tech had the Hail Mary that the guy caught, but apparently didn't catch it, which was I don't know.
That was a crazy game. Low key underrated, kind of not game of the year, but that was a fucking great game.
Yeah. Great game. So I don't know. I think Duke keeps it close here. Like I said, I put upset alert question mark here. Do we know if the U is legit? I mean, listen, they can score. I think Cam Ward's going to be the number 1 overall pick right about now, possible Heisman winner. Does Duke keep it close here, man? Or what do you think? I'm gonna let you go first here.
Yeah. So, you hit a lot of the points that I wrote down. Literally, my first note for this game is I still don't trust Miami. That's my first note.
Okay.
I get it. They're undefeated. I do like Cam Ward. I think he's gonna be a high draft pick. I'm pretty sure he's favored to win the Heisman right now, which rightfully so. I'm not going to take that away from him. But another keynote that I wrote is what you brought up. I think there's a bit of a revenge factor in this game. Miami fired Diaz and basically replaced him with Cristobal. So you got that storyline going on.
Yeah.
Duke is overachieving. I saw on gambling Twitter, so many people taking Duke's under in wins this year. Nobody thought Duke was going to be, what are they, 6-2? Something like that now?
Yeah, 6-2.
I said Duke would keep it close. I think Miami still wins. Again, I don't trust them, but I think Miami's going to make it in the playoff. And if you're going to make it in the playoff, you got to beat Duke in this spot. So I have Miami winning, but I think Duke keeps it close. I also have a couple stats here. I know in the last 20 matchups between Duke and Miami, Miami's 15-5. Take that for what you will. I mean, it's not, obviously it's different teams, different coaches, so who knows year to year.
It's not basketball.
Exactly, not basketball. So, like I said, I think Miami wins. I think Duke covers that plus 20, though. That's a lot of points. And like you said, Miami really hasn't been tested.
Yeah.
They played a close game against Virginia Tech, again, another team who I think is playing much better than what people expected. But Miami's expected to smoke Virginia Tech, right?
Yeah.
Going to that game, you would think Miami's going to smoke them. So I think, Miami wins by maybe 10. something like that. But I think Duke kind of covers the plus 20 with ease. Maybe, it's neck and neck the whole way, and then Miami kind of pulls away a little bit at the end to get it to 10. But I don't think they cover that 20. That's a lot of points.
That's a ton of points, and I also have, I do have Miami winning, which they should. I'm going with
They
the
have to.
I don't think Duke can match the points that Miami's going to put up. I know Duke is probably going to play clean football. Manny Diaz is going to have them prepared to play, but it just comes down to the Jimmies and Joes, man. Sometimes the players win. That's kind of. I know I said that with LSU and A&M last week. I said with a lot of things, honestly. Last week covering some of the games, A&M had a player come in late that kind of helped them win that game. So,
I
the
can't wait
Jimmies
to talk
and Joes
about
did
that.
win there. But I have the U winning 38-24. I think maybe they score late. They score those points late. Duke gets tired. They can't keep up with the U. Manny Diaz unfortunately loses to his old team that he coached prior. And I mean, it's not like Duke's gonna, I don't think they're gonna get rolled over, but to win is pretty hard here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with the U 38-24.
Yeah, I didn't write down a score prediction for this game, but off the top of my head, I'm going to say the U wins let's say 34-24. I think Duke for at least a little bit, they get a couple big stops maybe, and like I said, maybe that'll excite, Duke fans, but at the end of the day, I think Miami gets it together and pulls this one out and then wins by 10. So
Yeah.
34-24 is my prediction for that one.
24. All right. So we're about the same stage, 38-24, 34-24. So
Yeah.
I can see that happening for sure with that game. Also, to add to that game, Miami, like we said, hasn't been tested yet. Clemson, really, besides the Georgia game, really hasn't been tested yet. Miami did just play Louisville. We don't know what Louisville is. So the ACC is just a lot of questionable teams in there that I don't think we know enough about. Right?
All of them. I guess Miami, you can't really say it because they are undefeated, but most of the ACC, I feel like you don't know what you're getting week to week. You could see Clemson put up 40 and then the next week put up fucking 17, So,
yeah.
It's definitely an interesting conference. But yeah, I mean, Miami has to win. I think they'll win. But Duke has some fight in them, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah, no, I agree there. All right, moving on to some SEC football, which we love to talk about here.
Oh yeah,
Ole Miss. All right, traveling to Arkansas, underrated environment.
yes,
I know Arkansas. No one really talks about their stadium in the SEC. Usually, you hear about obviously A&M, LSU, Florida, especially Georgia, just because they're good now. I mean,
yeah,
Georgia, for their environment, wasn't really the craziest. I know they've consistently been a good program, but now that they're extremely good, it's very hard to play there because of how good the team is.
yep.
Auburn gets talked about a lot as a great environment. Team lately not very good, but the environment
Terrible, dude.
obviously another environment we're going to talk about later. South Carolina, always a good environment. Literally people game plan for South Carolina to take the crowd out of it early, which is the major game plan because once the crowd's out of it, you kind of should have the game under control. But anyways, we're not talking about South Carolina yet. Ole Miss going to Arkansas. Okay, Ole Miss is a 7-point favorite, a very generous 7 points traveling to Arkansas, who did beat Tennessee at home, and Tennessee,
Yep.
a possible playoff team, who just beat Bama not too long ago. So, what's your take on this game? What are you looking forward to here? I'm looking to see if Ole Miss can kind of respond. Maybe I'm not saying to so much adversity, but last week they played Oklahoma and it was close for a little bit. It was close.
Yeah,
Arkansas,
absolutely.
call a spade a spade. Arkansas is a better team than Oklahoma right now. Oklahoma can't generate much offense, and Ole Miss was in a very, very close game with them.
Yeah.
So,
And I wrote that down too. I mean, so if you're looking at last week for both these teams, Arkansas, I mean, handled Mississippi State with ease, which
yeah,
is not saying much, right? Mississippi State this is one of the worst Mississippi State teams I've seen in a while. Like Mississippi
Yeah.
State is never great, but like they used to kind of be scrappy. They're just rolling over to teams right now, and that's not a jab at Arkansas. Arkansas is a very good team, and being a Texas A&M fan myself, they always give us problems. Um, and you got two good passing offenses here. I think you're going to see a lot of slinging the ball downfield from both these teams. So I had the over unders 53.5. I think that goes over. If you're looking for like a
Yeah.
best bet in this game, that would be what I would take is the over 53.5. But I do think
Yeah.
this is a get right spot for Ole Miss.
It for sure is. And it's also a game they need to win. Like,
Correct.
I mean, if they want to, continue their playoff hopes, they have to win. I know they got 2 losses. They do have a tough road coming up, but I mean, going to Arkansas, not easy. Is Ole Miss on upset alert? I know we talked about possibly, an upset with Duke and Miami. That's, obviously, I think Miami is the better team here.
Correct. Yeah.
Ole Miss leaps and bounds better than Arkansas. Can we if you look at both teams, you're saying, wow, Ole Miss is definitely the better team. I think they are slightly, but it's not like it's that obvious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not like Miami Duke, like you look up and down the roster, it's Miami. Like there's no question about
Yeah,
it. I
yeah,
think it's more just like the storylines in that game that might keep that kind of close, at least at the beginning.
yeah.
This is more of an even matchup in my mind. I mean, Ole Miss probably better, player wise, but I mean, you can't overlook Arkansas. Like you just can't. And Ole Miss needs to win this game. Like I said, they got two good passing offenses. I think you're going to see a lot of points in this game. Um, I don't know if you want me to jump to this, but my score prediction is Ole Miss 37, Arkansas 30. So that would be a push on the spread. But if you're going off that score, I mean, that's a touchdown. So, I mean, you have a play or two here and there go either way. I mean, Arkansas is right there on upset watch. So,
Yeah.
I do like Arkansas has a good chance to upset, but I think after a lackluster performance from Ole Miss last week, they bounce back and they get the job done here.
Mhm. I in my prediction here, I have Arkansas winning. And I just think because I think Taylor Green, the quarterback, he's inconsistent. He does make mistakes, but he is electric when he's on. He can
Yeah.
run, he can throw. He's got a strong arm. I do like Arkansas here. I think Bobby Petrino is going to call the right plays. I think Arkansas wins late, 30-27. So I have the overhitting as well. Arkansas covering the +7. That I really don't know how Ole Miss is that much of a favorite going into Arkansas. So I have Arkansas winning 30-27. A late field goal wins it. Ole Miss, unfortunately, does not make the college football playoff in my prediction. Maybe they win. Maybe they do.
Do you think they're going to lose another game this year, Ole Miss? I don't know who's left on their schedule.
I'd have to look into their schedule more. They're definitely
Yeah.
not losing State as I say that, but I mean,
No,
I can't see Mississippi State beating them. I mean, really, I just
No.
can't. Yeah,
You
no
would think like that's kind of like a rivalry game, like it might be close.
yeah,
It's Mississippi State is that bad.
yeah, no,
It
exactly.
doesn't matter if it's a rivalry game. They're that bad.
I've been a part of an era where we had rivalry games against an orange team upstate, and that team was significantly better than us, and we went in there and we kind of knew, hey, it's a rivalry game, but we who's better. Who the better team is. Like, so obviously, usually the better team wins, and the team, when they were rolling, I don't want to say their name, but when that team was rolling, I mean, look at the NFL, players they produced. I mean, the whole team basically went to the NFL. So we
Yep.
had a few guys, but nothing crazy. But anyways, off that game, moving to the largest cocktail party in America, Florida versus Georgia in Jacksonville, Florida. It's moving to Tampa next year. I saw something about they're moving the game because the Jaguar Stadium is going under construction for. They're updating the stadium, so they can't have the Georgia-Florida game there. Maybe it's in 2026. Not sure exactly what it was, but Georgia is a 16.5-point favorite. Okay, neutral site game. Has been my whole lifetime, basically, as long as I've been watching college football. I think Florida's still doing the 2-quarterback system where they play Lagway and they play Mertz. Eventually, they're going to have to just look at Graham Mertz and be like, listen, man, I know you're a senior. I know it's kind of like your last year, but this kid's just better than you, And
Yep.
I mean, it's tough to say that to some kid when he's put in so much work for your program, but Lagway is the better quarterback. He's smoother. I know he's a freshman, so, he's prone to make freshman mistakes, so to say, but the kid's pretty good, man. I know Billy Napier, he kind of saved his job somewhat so far with Florida improving as the year's gone on. Definitely a tough matchup for Florida here with Georgia opening up as a 16.5-point favorite. I'm going to just predict it here. I really, this game, I put some thought into it, just looking at it. I think Georgia's just the better team. And I know that Georgia's the better team.
Yep.
I think Georgia after that Texas game, because you got to remember Georgia almost lost to Kentucky in Kentucky, and I mean maybe that was a wake up call for Georgia. Like, hey, we almost lost to a team who was not very good. Okay, you say what you want about Kentucky. I know Stoops, he usually has them as a physical team, disciplined. Kentucky just doesn't have it this year. I don't know what happened to them. They're supposed to be somewhat solid this year. They're not, but Georgia was sleepwalking in that game, almost lost to Kentucky, which was insanity. And I think they woke up after that game. They go into Texas. Everyone's high on Texas. Oh, Texas is going to do this. Texas is going to do that. Texas almost, they played Arch Manning for a drive to kind of change up something, and then they went back to Ewers, and then they kind of found it, and the fans just started throwing stuff on the field because they didn't like the call, and the refs were like, oh, we got to – these fans are upset, so now we got to give them what they want. No, that doesn't happen. But Georgia still won that game. I think Georgia's sending a message here. All right.
Yep.
Got Georgia 38, Florida 10. Okay. Maybe Florida scrapes out some more points. I just think Georgia's going to send a message to their rival, to the nation, say, hey, we're here to play. All right. You talked about Bama. You talked about Texas, all these other SEC heavyweights. Nah, it's Georgia's year to win the SEC and maybe win the college football playoff. So that's just my take there. What do you have to say about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of have the same script a little bit here. I mean, like you said earlier, Georgia kind of had a little bit of a slip up against Kentucky. I think more or less that woke them up. They are hands down, in my eyes, the better team on paper here.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And Napier's got Florida playing a little bit better, which, like you said, might save his job. But at the end of the day, under Napier, the Gators are 2-12 against ranked teams, which, it's not great. Look, Florida's not this amazing team, right? But they're a storied school. They've had great teams in the past. You expect them to be a ranked team here or there. Maybe you're not beating a top 5 team, but 2-12, you're talking teams ranked in the 20s too. Florida should be good enough to compete with that, and they just haven't been under Napier.
No, you got to figure 2 losing seasons, and not to cut you off, but 2 losing seasons.
Go ahead.
With Anthony Richardson was at the helm. One of the losing seasons, he lost to Vanderbilt with a
it's just unacceptable.
First round pick quarterback. Say what you want about Anthony Richardson, he went in the first round. Size, athletic ability, arm strength was all through the charts with Anthony Richardson. Obviously, other intangibles of quarterbacking he doesn't have, but people saw the athleticism and all that, and they thought, wow, we need this kid. They had a losing season under him. And then last year they went 5-7. So 2 losing seasons at Florida. You can have a losing season at, say, Mississippi State your first year. And
you're expected to win at Florida, man. They expect you to win. It doesn't matter what, how many guys go to the NFL or what. Year after year, the fans are expect you to win. You can't keep – 5 wins, you're not even eligible for a bowl game, right? So, that's just not acceptable football down in Florida. So,
I agree.
One other thing I have here on this game, for another little storyline in one of these games, you got ETN playing against his former
Oh,
team.
right. Yeah. He transferred
You
over
know,
to
yeah, transfer kid. So, I kind of look at him to have a big game.
Oh yeah.
And a big note I have in this game. So, and you mentioned this earlier. You expect Georgia obviously to be in the playoff. You expect them to have a chance to win the national championship. I do as well. And again, I go back to if that is what your belief is, they have to handle Florida because they still have two big matchups before the end of this year against Ole Miss and Tennessee. So if you slip up against Florida, you're really putting yourself in a tough spot. I don't think Georgia slips up. I think they win easily. I have the
Yeah.
score as I gave the Gators a little bit more credit than you did. I have the score 45-20. So
Okay.
still winning,
All right.
covering. Actually, no, that's not covering, is it? No, it is. I'm lying. I
60 and
can't
a
do
half.
math.
They cover. Yeah, they cover
So
that.
that yeah, I think they cover. I think they win easily. Maybe Florida gets a couple garbage time points at the end. Maybe it's like 40 to 45 to 10 late in the game, and they score some garbage time points. But I think Georgia wins this easily without a sweat.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Kirby Smart have them ready to play. He motivates them a certain way where he tells them people are doubting him, even when
Yeah,
it's kind of like when the Patriots play like the underdog role. Like back in the day with Brady, like nobody believes in us. Like when they're by far the better team. By
yeah.
then, like maybe like one team is maybe better than them, and
And
they
hey,
play
if
the
it
underdog.
works, it works.
Yeah,
Like
that's what Kirby does with them with Georgia. He kind of tells them, "Hey, people are doubting us," which they were against Texas. Which I kind of looked at that
yeah,
game. Man, people really don't think Georgia's that like can play or can hang with Texas, which was kind of insane to me. With Georgia the past 3-4 years, how good they've been that they can't hang with Texas, who just joined the SEC. But that's here nor there. We're moving on to a game that I will be at. Okay, so tomorrow I travel to State College, Pennsylvania.
oh
Those
yeah,
for those who do not know, all right, and I know Spee, my mom's family are huge Penn State fans. Okay, my uncle, who I'm going with, massive Penn State fan. Like I think I said in a video before, kind of similar to me with South Carolina, very passionate about the school he went to and the team. Um, and he's juiced up about this game. All right, Penn State, Ohio State, always a game. All Penn State fans, they circle on the schedule. Hey, this is the game we have to win. Kind of for respect in our conference and respect for the playoff committee here. Even though I think Penn State, they can not say they want to, but if they lose this game to Ohio State, I think they'll survive and somehow get in. Looking at
yep,
the next few games they have. Um, Penn State is actually historically terrible against Ohio State. Like,
yeah, they
I did
are.
the math. Well, I say I did the math. I looked back on years they beat Ohio State. The last time they beat them, I was actually there in 2016 with the blocked field goal. So I go to a lot of Penn State whiteout games when I was home going to Ock, and then I went to South Con. I missed a lot of games. Missed a lot of Penn
Wait, hang
State.
on. Sorry to cut you off here real quick, but so this is a noon game, right?
Big
So
noon. Yeah,
Penn State's not doing a whiteout because they don't do whiteouts for noon games, which I think is crazy. Like, who
yeah,
cares? It's the biggest game of the year, and you're not going to do a whiteout. Why?
yeah.
Because it's at
It's
noon.
the contract. Fox is pushing the big noon for the past few years, and I think it's terrible. I think
It
like
is. This is the biggest game of the year, and it's at noon.
yeah, you should not have big games at noon. You got people still waking up, from the night before, man. Like, come on, like
And I think you got like what Pitt SMU as like an 8 o'clock game this week, which is like,
yeah,
all right, it's two
yeah,
ranked teams. I still think it's gonna be a good game, but I mean,
yeah,
come on, this is clearly the biggest game of the week
yeah.
and
By far,
probably the biggest game of the year.
college game day is there.
Yeah.
Big noon kickoff is there, which I don't know who watches big noon kickoff. No offense to anybody on the big noon kickoff. Obviously, you guys are respecting the college football community.
Oh yeah.
Heisman Trophy winner up there, legendary coach who now looks like a loan shark. Um,
He
but
does.
but yes, everybody's eyes are on this game here. And as I was saying before, Penn State's historically bad against Ohio State. The last time they beat Ohio State, this is a real fact, okay? And they play every single year, okay? Like Penn State, the last time they beat Ohio State was 2016. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
8 years ago. 8 years ago is the last time Penn State beat Ohio State. And I know last year was the year, Penn State, they could, possibly beat Ohio State. I know it was in Ohio State. This was the year Penn State does it. And Drew Aller looked awful. Penn State's defense was solid, but the offense did absolutely nothing. Ohio State ended up beating them. Well, Marvin Harrison single-handedly beat Penn State that game. But yeah. I basically have Penn State historically bad. This is a game Penn State needs. This is a game James Franklin needs.
I was going to ask you, if you don't mind me cutting you off, who do you think is under more pressure in this game, Day or Franklin? Because, like you said, I think if Penn State slips up and loses this game, right, I think they're fine. I still think they win out the rest of the way and get into the playoff. Ohio State's in a little bit more of a tricky situation if they lose. I know your two losses are to Oregon and Penn State, but, now you're looking at two losses, so it's a little bit trickier. But you got that, that 8-year kind of thing hanging over your head at Penn State where, like, you got to beat these teams, right? Like, Ohio State and Michigan, that's the two big teams, right? Like, at some point, you have to beat them. So who would you say is under more pressure as a coach to win this game?
That's a good question. When you bring that up, obviously Ohio State lost to Oregon. Can't afford this loss, even though on the road in Penn State is no joke. It's not like they're playing in Central Park here, okay? You're going to, Happy Valley. The place, like I said, Penn State fans circle this game on their schedule. They're ready for this game. They're hyped up.
It's going to be nuts. And I'm jealous that you're going there. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be a great environment. I've had the luxury of going to some insane college football games, but I'm going to say, I think, Franklin's under a ton of pressure to win this game. Everyone says he can't win the big games here. I think Day's under more pressure.
I think so too. Only because their playoff chances are going to be, in question if you lose. Like, two losses is, again, like I said, two good losses. Like, you didn't get blown out by Oregon, so you have that going for you. And I don't think if they lose that they would get blown out by Penn State. But at the end of the day, it's still two losses. So I agree with you. I think Day's under a little bit more pressure.
No, I think Day's, like I said, both guys are under extreme pressure, but Day's under more pressure. Ohio State, they got Will Howard to transfer there. People had them as the sure favorites to win the national title. They lose at Oregon, obviously in like a tough environment. Ohio State's had a rough go here, but tough environment in Oregon. You lose there. You got to put it on coaching, right? That last drive, it seemed like Ohio State was driving, they were going to win, and then Ryan Day just forgot how to coach, man. You had Dan Lanning, a second-year coach, out coaching Ryan Day, who's been at Ohio State for, almost 5 years now?
Yep.
Okay, so, Ryan Day's under more pressure here in Happy Valley. I'm going to let you predict this first. I'll save my prediction for the after you. Give me a score. I did not put the spread down. I should have done that.
I got it. You're looking at, I just checked this morning. I don't know if it changed since then, but I got Ohio State -3.5 as the spread.
Oh, God.
If you want me to go first, I'll go first if you want to think about it. So, just a couple quick notes before I say that. You got Ohio State, who I think is going to want to try to run the ball in this game. Penn State's got a great defense, so I don't know how well that's going to work, especially Ohio State's missing two left tackles, their starter and now their backup. So I don't know how much of a problem that's going to be. I don't know who their starting left tackle is going to be for this game.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to look at while the game goes on.
Yeah.
I do, and I don't know if it's recency bias because Penn State hasn't beat Ohio State and the fact that Ohio State kind of needs to win this game. I'm leaning Ohio State, but I think Penn State covers, and 3.5, that's not a lot. So that's going to be a close game. So, I have this game at 23-20. I think the defenses show up. I don't think it's necessarily bad offense. But I think if Ohio State tries to run the ball, they might run into some issues with that left tackle situation, which I think is going to keep it on the lower scoring side. And like I said, I think Ohio State wins, but Penn State covers at 3.5. So I have it at 23-20, which would also get you just barely at that under, which is 45.5.
All right. So you said Ohio State 23-20?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I would be crucified to a cross if I said anything besides Penn State winning. When my
Yeah, you got to give them the win, right?
So I have Penn State winning. I mean, they have to win this game. I think Penn State fans are thinking, "Hey, this is the year. This is the year we win." That's what I trust me. I've heard it.
And you're absolutely right on that. Every Penn State fan saying they have to win this game, even though we just said if they lose, I still think they're in the playoffs. But you got to put yourself in the mind of a Penn State fan and not beating this team in 8 years. In their minds, this is a must-win game.
Yeah.
So you know that place is going to be rocking.
Oh no, yeah. They and Drew Aller's got to show up. I kind of wrote about him a little bit here. He was terrible against Ohio State last year. He's from Ohio, and actually the quarterback Will Howard, he's from Pennsylvania, wanted to go to Penn State, and Penn State told him, "You're not good enough to play at Penn State." So there's a lot on the line here. It's not
wow. Okay.
Stuff like that. So Penn State told Will Howard, "We don't think you're good enough to play at Penn State." He goes to Kansas State, makes a name for himself, transfers to Ohio State. So, I mean, I'm really looking at that. A kid who was doubted in Will Howard, by Penn State and other schools that passed on him, and Drew Aller, who was a 5-star recruit. So, still on the same stage at big-time programs. So, I want to see that, that quarterback matchup there with Aller and Will Howard. I have Penn State skating by 28-27. I feel like for Penn State to win, the crowd has to be a factor, which it will be. Defense, Penn State, very athletic, very good defense. Offensively has improved. I'm rocking with the Nittany Lions here, man. I'm rocking with them, man. I have to. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be in my white. I'll wear my black once the game's over. Put my Gamecock black because just got the update. We're wearing black, but
interesting.
I'm going Penn State 28-27.
And you made a good point. I didn't even talk about this real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
This game is going to come down to Drew Aller. If Drew Aller throws up a stinker, they're not going to win. He needs to bounce back after that performance last year against this team. And I think he plays all right. Like I said, I have Ohio State winning, but it's a toss-up. Like, I could see Penn State coming out and winning this game. So if Drew Aller's on, watch out, Ohio State.
Yeah, no, I agree. So you got Ohio State, I got Penn State. Moving on. Let's talk before we get into A&M and South Carolina. Let's kind of talk about the armed forces here, okay?
Yeah, I wrote this game down. I always love these games.
Army and Air Force here. Commander-in-Chief trophy on the line. I don't know if it's on the line exactly to say, but definitely fighting for the Commander-in-Chief trophy here. Man, being in such a close proximity to the Army, I just want to cover this game briefly. Not really, we don't have to dive in here, but
yeah, because we'll go long on A&M South Carolina.
Yeah. I'm rocking with Army, man. I think they're a lot better than people think. I know armed forces. I think Army, they're very disciplined. They're big this year. The quarterback can throw it somewhat. I know Army traditionally never throws the ball, never does that, but they're I don't know, man. I really like Army. I really do. I like I said, discipline. The coach is very good. Monken, he took Army over. Man, I don't know how long ago, but he took them over and they finally beat Navy. I remember watching that game. I was like, oh my God, I actually watched Army beat Navy because there was a time where Navy just rolled over Army like they weren't even there for years. And it was like, why am I watching this game? Monken gets there, builds the program a little bit. It's hard to recruit when you got guys who have to go to the Army after they're done playing football. But he has gotten them, respectable. So I'll go with Army here. I think they continue their path. They are ranked. Army's ranked, undefeated. So I think they continue their ways and a possible playoff team. They are in a group of 5 conference. They can win that conference and get that bid. So we'll see, man. What's your take here?
Yeah, first of all, if Army gets into the playoff, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like that
I mean,
it would be so cool to have one of those like military teams, make it. Um, and I agree with you, man. This Army team is different than years past, and I think a lot of people are overlooking them, thinking it's like still the same, kind of Army team. Like, yeah, they're 7-0, but like, because I mean, to be fair, who the fuck's watching Army, right? I don't think that many people are tuning into Army
no,
games.
no, my
But
grandpa did though for some
yeah,
reason.
I wrote down Army routes them. Air
Okay.
Force is not good. Army
Yeah.
is a number one ranked running offense in the nation.
Yeah. No, they can run. They can
Like
run.
they can run the ball, and I think they're gonna have no problem running the ball against this Air Force team. And that sets up the Army Navy showdown. Because I mean, if they're both undefeated, man, I mean that's gonna be a hell of a game. So,
Yeah.
and also like a little quick note I wrote down. I didn't even realize this. Army's yet to trail in a game this year. They've never once trailed in a game. Um, and also like I think Army and Navy are pretty close. You know, team wise, and
Yeah.
Navy crushed Air Force. So I don't see Air Force being a problem. I think Army, handles them with ease and keeps it stepping and they stay undefeated.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Um. So Army stays undefeated. Um. We got the biggest game, and well, not the biggest game, but
Biggest game for us.
a biggest game for you and I. Okay.
Yeah.
Go. We got Texas A&M traveling to South Carolina here. Um, in Williams-Brice Stadium, a very underrated environment. I say underrated. I feel like it's not underrated anymore to really say that, right?
I don't think so. I mean, I respect it. And I mean, if you don't at this point, I just think you're delusional and maybe a Gamecock hater, but
Yeah.
and I've been to a game there with you. I mean, it's electric. If you don't think it's electric, go to a game there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great time.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely got to go to a game in South Carolina for sure. Um, I do think people don't think it's a great environment because historically our teams haven't been great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like historically our teams have been average. I mean, South
And
Carolina.
what I will say is that's a big thing. People like you mentioned with Georgia, like the thing if you're competing for a national championship, your environment's going to be better. You know what I mean? It's it's the teams that are not and they still have that environment. Those are the ones that impress me, which South Carolina has. When's the last time South Carolina's been competing for a national championship? It's been a while.
I mean,
So
I say competing. I mean, you got like maybe like. I mean, we had a good run like under Spurrier from 2010 to 2013.
yeah.
You know, we had, I think, in my eyes, a team that could win the national championship, but never even like you can say South Carolina fans say what they want. We didn't come close, man. We went 10-2, 10-2, 3 straight years, and then won the bowl game, so 11-2, which is good. And it's at South Carolina, that's incredible. But
And which looking back on that now with the way the playoffs is set up, I mean, you got to think those are playoff teams back then if you have the 12-team playoff, right?
yeah, no, definitely playoff teams for sure. But like that time is over, man. I think, but I will make this argument now. I'll make this argument now that we're on those teams that South Carolina had. This defense that South Carolina has is the most talented defense I've ever seen at South Carolina in my eyes. And I don't, I talked this with my friends who are South Carolina fans. This defense is extremely talented. And I'm excited to see them this weekend against A&M's Marcel Reed, who's
Yeah.
He kind of took the nation by storm coming in and covering against LSU, but Wegman was terrible. Wegman was awful.
Yeah.
I mean,
and my first note for this game is who's playing quarterback for A&M.
Yeah.
From what I've read, they might try to do a two like duo thing, which I don't like. I've never liked when any team did that. I mean, I guess I kind of understand the thought process, but like I feel like when you do that, your offense never gets in a rhythm, especially with this. Like Wegman's clearly, the throwing guy, and Reed's more of a running quarterback. So, if you keep flip-flopping during the game, you never really get a rhythm for like what you're doing on offense. So I really hope they don't do that. And I don't know who I want. because I don't trust Wegman, dude. And I don't know how, if you're an A&M fan, or if you're even if you've watched all the A&M games, even if you're not a fan, I don't know how you can trust Wegman. I don't. But at
Yeah.
the same time, like I said before, Reed's more of a running quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think A&M's going to want to run the ball. They got a great O-line, but the Gamecocks have been great against the run this year. Like you said, I think it's one of the best defenses that they've had
Yeah.
within the past 10 years for sure. So it's going to be interesting what A&M's game plan is going into this.
Yeah.
But another quick little note I just want to say about Mike Elko. I love Mike Elko.
Oh yeah. No,
He's, I
he built
think,
it the right way. I think he's building it the right way.
yes,
Mentality,
yeah.
discipline, smart football. Not making a lot of mistakes.
And I think that's something teams have to look at, because, like, after, when A&M moved on from, why am I drawing a blank on his name now? Who was the coach before Fisher?
Kevin Sumlin.
Kevin Sumlin. When they moved up from Sumlin, it felt like they just went out and got a flashy name rather than just a good football coach, which is what Mike Elko is. Like, Mike Elko's not that flashy guy. He's not, a national champion coach. But in my mind, he's got the team playing the best they've played. Say what you want to say about, like, they might not have the same kind of guys like that Georgia has or whatnot. Like, you don't have a first round quarterback, but he's got them playing good football. And I love that. And you don't always need that flashy signing of a coach. You just need somebody who understands what you have in the locker room and runs an offense and a defense to the team's strengths, which is what I think he's done and why A&M's been good this year.
No, yeah, and I mean, listen, you kind of hit the nail on the head here with A&M, and kind of what they're building there. I did not know that Wegman. They're thinking. I honestly, because I honestly just figured that Reed came in, looked electric. That he's going to play the whole game. With Wegman, I mean, if Wegman played the whole game, my prediction was if Wegman played the whole game, my prediction was different than what I put down. So that's interesting that you said that. Another note, we talked about South Carolina's environment. Last time, Texas A&M played.
Well, real quick, I think Reed is starting, quote unquote, starting. But like I said, I don't know. I heard things about, like, maybe Wegman coming in from time to time. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, if Reed starts, right, and they're electric, I don't think Wegman will come in. But, if South Carolina can contain them, then it's going to get interesting.
No, yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely going to get interesting if they can contain Reed. You hit on South Carolina's run defense. I want to hit on something else, and then I'll get back to that. So Willie B, last time South Carolina played A&M in 2022. So every even year we played A&M at home. There was actually, people thought an earthquake was happening. The last time South Carolina played A&M, Leggett returned to the opening kickoff. He's now in the Panthers, Xavier Leggett. And the place went berserk, and there was actually an earthquake recorded in Columbia, South Carolina that night with, like,
That's crazy.
That's how insane Williams-Brice Stadium was that night. That's actually the first time we beat A&M. So as I talked about, Penn State's historically bad against Ohio State. South Carolina's historically bad against A&M. I mean, we've had some close games against A&M unless we go to Kyle Field where we just lose by like 15 plus points. But I mean, you talked about the Spur years with South Carolina. So we opened up the first game SEC Network ever in 2014, A&M at South Carolina, who had 18 straight home wins. Okay. You had a freshman in Kenny Hill going into South Carolina. Everyone's high on South Carolina. South Carolina was a 10-point favorite, a possible playoff team that year. And I mean, A&M came out and just was throwing the ball at will. Like, I was like, dude, is Aaron Rodgers at quarterback? Like, what's going on? And not Jets Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about, like, real Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, MVP Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
But, yeah, so that was like the kickoff of the rivalry that A&M and South Carolina have because they play every year. And ever since that, it's been all A&M besides that one game. South Carolina's run defense is good. Don't get me wrong. But it's definitely, if there's a chink in the armor of the defense, it's definitely the run defense because we tend to overcommit a lot. We got a very aggressive group of defenders that, when they get going, they're just head down going, and then they get beat on the outside edge there.
Yeah.
Sometimes that we overcommit. So that's my take there. We basically covered everything here in this game. So I'm gonna let you predict it. I'm gonna keep my prediction last here again. This is a huge game for both of us, obviously, both of our teams. What's your prediction and why?
All right. So my score prediction, obviously I'm picking A&M to win. I got A&M winning 24-21.
Wow.
And real quick, I think you made a good point. If this game was at Kyle Field, I would feel a lot different.
Oh yeah, no,
Not saying I'm like quote unquote scared of South Carolina, but playing at South Carolina is totally different than playing this game at home.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I think it's going to be somewhat close. And also, like what I said before about the quarterback situation, I'm a little bit wary of that. But my one note for South Carolina is going to come down to, can they avoid the mistakes on offense? The turnovers and the penalties, because South Carolina, all 4 of their wins, they didn't turn the ball over. So if they can avoid the turnovers, and they take a ton of penalties on offense, if they can avoid some of those mistakes, I mean, it's going to be a very close game. I'm still giving it to A&M. A&M, again, this is a game where A&M has to win. You can't lose this game.
Yeah.
So I still have A&M winning 24-21. But if South Carolina starts turning the ball over, it could turn into a little bit of a mess, I think, for them.
Yeah.
But I think at home, I think the crowd's going to be electric, and I think they do avoid the turnover, which keeps it close, but A&M still wins. Possibly a late field goal to send them the victory.
Yeah. So my question in this game, going into the game, was, can South Carolina move the ball? Because our O-line is not great at all.
And that's what we didn't really talk much about A&M's defense, mostly because I don't think we have to. I mean, they're just good.
Yeah.
I just think everyone kind of knows that at this point. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's still the strength of this A&M team. Even though Reed's been kind of electric when he's played, it's still the strength of this team, and it's going to be what puts them over the top in this game, in my mind.
No, I agree. With that, obviously, I never want to pick against South Carolina or like.
No, you can't.
I picked them. I'm just going to hit on some other things. You said the defense at A&M, not giving up a lot of points. I think last week before the LSU game, they were giving up 17 points a game.
Yeah.
And it's not like A&M's played a bunch of scrubs, So 17 points a game is very respectable from a defense. It's kind of exceptional, right? You give 17 points a game, you should win every game.
You should be winning every game. Yeah, correct.
They almost basically have, besides the Notre Dame game. That was the first game of the year. You really don't know what you got with your team. So I'll give them a pass, obviously, with Notre Dame loss. Sellers. Lenora Sellers, quarterback of South Carolina. Very talented kid. People are comparing him to Anthony Richardson, which I don't like because I'm not a fan of Anthony Richardson or his game. I don't think he's very good. I think Sellers is better.
Got a big arm.
I think Sellers is better than Richardson. I think he just needs coaching and refinement a lot more. And I think he'll get that playing at South Carolina for probably the next 2-3 years, wherever it is. But right now he's prone to turnovers, and he sometimes doesn't feel the pressure, from the D line, which when he does feel it though, and he creates plays, he's dangerous off script, but on script, keeping Sellers in the pocket, which I think A&M will most likely do. I think he's going to struggle a little bit moving the ball against A&M. That's why. And A&M's a 2.5-point favorite, so obviously people respect South Carolina, that environment, the defense, and stuff like that, and probably the talent that South Carolina has. But A&M comes to Willie B. I think it's a close game, a 4-quarter game, which is expected, I think, in this game. I have A&M 24, South Carolina 20. So you have
24-21. So we're basically right on the same.
I got
same there.
A&M 24-20. Obviously, it's painful for me to make this prediction, but I got to be honest here, right? This is as honest as I can be. South Carolina is good enough I'd say, at bay. So we've played LSU, right? who's a pretty good team. People say we should have beat them. We lost. We played Alabama, who's a pretty good team, on the road in Tuscaloosa. Freshman quarterback. People say we should have won the game. We lost. Ole Miss, absolutely an egg. I was there. Whatever. South Carolina is an almost team. Like, we're almost good enough to beat those teams. I don't think we're good enough yet. I just don't think we're good enough.
And that's why I wrote down my note about avoid the mistakes, because those games, Ole Miss, you're right, they laid an egg, but Alabama had a huge chance to win that game. LSU, you had a chance to win that game.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. A lot of mistakes made.
You know, if you just don't shoot yourself in the foot, like, I think this SC team has a lot of talent. They do.
And I'll almost make the argument that this is the most talented group we've seen since that Spurrier era. I know South Carolina had a few, I say, good years, but like we went 8-4 like 2 years ago, and people were like doing backflips. I'm like, all right, let's settle down, man. Like, we should, like, the standard of South Carolina in my eyes should be like 8-4, the floor 7-5. Like, that's what I think, and that South Carolina should be an 8-4 team. I'm not saying every year, but consistently at least get 8 wins, 7 wins. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, build some of those seasons in a row, and then, you know, try to take that next step into, like, all right, we're ready to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. I agree. You know, they're recruiting well. I think the recruiting could be better. Depends on, you know, how you play. You know, this game is huge with recruiting implications as far as the 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis will be there, and he just decommitted from Georgia, and he's interested in South Carolina. So we'll see, you know, after that game what he's thinking. But that's a wrap. I do apologize, people, for the distractions in the back. I am working on getting like a little desk or like a mini office for the videos, but right now I do have people that just love to walk in behind me. So without further ado, though, anything else, Speak?
No, I mean, I had a great time. Thanks for having me. And I mean, I wish you were going to be in town for this game and we could watch it together, but
I was too. I wish I was too, but obviously
I'm sure we'll be texting throughout the game. So
yeah, we'll be texting too. And good thing for me is Penn State's at noon. I'm out at the game, and then this game's at 7:30, so I get to
you got to be like a kid on like Christmas Eve right now. That's going to be a great day.
Yeah, great day. Sunday might not be good for me though. But Saturday.
No, let's not get into the NFL. Both our teams fucking suck.
NFL football is terrible, but that's a wrap, guys. Let me know other videos you want to see. Obviously, my man Speed was with me this week. If you want to see him again, let me know. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, hit subscribe. This could be a weekly thing, me and Speed talking. So if that's what you want to see, let me know, man. I had a great time with my man here. With that being said, see you
later, boys.
Later.